Welcome everyone to the CRM MVP podcast episode number 98. Wow, we're getting really close to episode 100 and also 100,000 downloads. So thank you so much guys for tuning into the show and for, all your feedback and essentially staying with us throughout this whole time. I know that the last year wasn't easy with coronavirus and all of that, but we have been able to continue to produce a show every 2 weeks for all of you in order to kind of keep you on top of things that are happening in the world of business applications and dynamics, and obviously to, as always, discuss best practices and kind of a real world experience that a lot of professionals like the Microsoft MVPs have. Because we really believe that it's going to help you, right? It's going to help you avoid some of those pitfalls that a lot of us went through in order to learn all of the lessons that now we have. So last episode, we had Matt Whitman and we had Neil Benson as guests of the show, and we were actually talking about the sales application and essentially, some of those kind of old school features, whether we agree with them or disagree or love them or hate them. I wanted to kind of pick their brains and see if they're still using some of those features. And as I announced on that episode, I plan to continue that series with other applications. I want to talk about customer service. I want to talk about field service. I want to talk about the CRM administration side as a whole. Like, what are some of those old school features that people are still using today? And, like I said, we're going to continue that series later on, but I wanted to take a break from covering all of those things, covering, the applications and whether we love them or hate them and all of that. And I want to talk about two things in this episode. It's the first episode of February of 2021. And, we're now in kind of like a critical timeline when it comes to the 2021 Wave 1 release, or the April release as is known. I don't know if you remember, but until the last, couple of years, we used to call them the autumn release or the fall release and spring release and all of that. Problem with that, obviously, is Dynamics and Power Platform, and, all of the applications that we use and know and love are used globally. And whenever we're here in winter, I bet it's not winter in Australia. And whenever we're in spring, I bet it's not spring in Australia either. So, and that's just to mention one country, obviously. Globally, what I'm saying is that the seasons don't go along. And I come from a country where we don't have seasons, right? It rains for 2 months and then we have 10 months of no rain. That's kind of how it works. We don't have spring or winter or whatever it is. So a lot of people out there didn't identify really with spring and fall and all that other stuff. So I'm glad that Microsoft kind of silently started naming these releases the April release and the October release. We get to see them coming along. We get to see them, before they show up and kind of what to expect. And most importantly, we get to see, what kind of features are coming and we get to prepare for them. As MVPs, we have access to a lot of these features even before they exist. In some cases, we have the opportunity to talk to the team and kind of discuss what they're thinking about working on. And in a lot of cases, we're not demanding this. The team obviously offers that information to us in things like the MVP Summit. They say, here are some of the things that we're thinking about. What do you guys think? And then in some cases, and I've talked about this in previous episodes, in some cases, our feedback makes it into the final version of the solution, and in some cases it can even speed up the release of some of these features. One good example is server-side sync, and I can only talk about this because Matt Barber mentioned this at a conference, so this is kind of a public information, public knowledge. When server-side sync was coming along, Microsoft's plan was to essentially complete the whole functionality before releasing it. And what I mean by that is server-side sync as it stands today is a fully hybrid solution. It allows you to connect CRM on-premise or Dynamics 365 on-premise with Exchange Online, Dynamics 365 Online with Exchange on-premise, or however it is. You can fully connect. Either they're both online or both on-prem or online on-prem combinations. It doesn't matter. So when Microsoft was thinking about server-side sync, they wanted to release those capabilities immediately. But the email router, which was the way we connected between between the two systems, wasn't the best. It wasn't very stable. There weren't really a whole lot of features. So, Microsoft essentially showed us during an MVP summit. They showed us the first version of server-side sync, which worked only when the two solutions were in the same platform. Either they were both online or both on-prem, but it wouldn't work hybrid. So they said, look, we're working on the hybrid capabilities, and we're going to hold until that's available. And, what do you guys think? And obviously the feedback from the room was, we believe that this can do a lot of good right now, because a lot of customers that go online are small and medium-sized businesses that are not going to pay tens of thousands of dollars to set up an on-premise infrastructure. They're going online, and they're going online not just with Dynamics. They're going online with Office 365. They're going online with everything on the cloud. So because of that, we wanted it to be available as soon as possible. That's the feedback that we provided. They don't have to follow our feedback. It's only our opinion, and they can choose to agree or disagree. And luckily and thankfully, I think for a lot of customers out there, they decided to follow our feedback and release kind of in two waves. They release first the same platform wave, and then later on they introduce hybrid capabilities. I thought that was the right move. I don't think that if they decided to hold back and wait until the capability was fully baked, if they waited for that, I don't think that necessarily would have been a really bad move. I think that it makes sense to introduce a feature that works all the way, let's just say. So I don't think that would have been a bad decision anyway, but the fact that they approached it in two separate stages was good for us as professionals and for customers, all over the world. So when it comes to the releases, a lot of this functionality we've talked about, but the public, or the general public, let's just say, is not aware of some of these things that are coming up. But Microsoft does a really good job at releasing their plans, and as much as possible, essentially specify what's coming, what to prepare for, knowing that some of these announcements are subject to change, in the sense of maybe you will not see them release right in April, but perhaps it comes in June, like a month later or 2 months later. Things can change, and in some cases you may see functionality that it's delayed until the October release. Let's say it was for April and now it's going to come in October or something like that. So what I wanted to do is, because this functionality is about to come, I want to talk about some of my favorite things that are coming on. And this won't be a top 10, because then we'll be here forever, but I want to talk about some of my favorite things coming up. I have added the link to the Dynamics 365 2021 Release Wave 1 plan on the notes of this episode. So if you're listening to this, and I'm going to add it on YouTube as well. If you're watching through YouTube, you can see the link on the notes or the description of this episode, and you can go ahead and take a look. You can download it in PDF if you really want to. And I wonder how many pages on PDF. I'm just going to open it up on my computer here really quick. It's 348 pages. If you feel like you want to read them all. I personally like to see them on the docs.microsoft.com website, because they really do a good job kind of splitting it by category, because I know that I personally don't want to learn a whole lot about, let's say, finance and operations or Business Central or something like that. On the PDF document, you get kind of all the features for all their products when it comes to Dynamics 365, finance and operations, Business Central, marketing, all the apps, sales, customer service, field service, everything goes in there. And in addition to that, there's a bunch of other stuff that you can read about. But I personally like to kind of drill in and go into the things that I'm excited about. Again, this PDF includes information about everything inside of Dynamics, even outside of Dynamics, like Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, Power Platform Governance and Administration, data integration, portals, all that stuff. Anything that's coming on all these features that are not exactly Dynamics 365 All of that is included on the PDF. That's why it's 348 pages. So I want to talk about a couple of ones that I'm excited about. Some of them are kind of buried inside the category, so I'll tell you how to get there. And when you look at docs.microsoft.com, it will give you a nice list. There's a section that says early access features, and those are the features that are now available. February of 2021. When you're listening to this, hopefully you're listening to this as soon as it comes out. There's a bunch of stuff that just became available for you to test on your test environment, your development environment, etc., and your sandbox. You can enable it and test it out. For example, in terms of Dynamics 365 for sales, there's something called enhanced personal settings. All right? Enhanced personal settings is now available in Dynamics 365. You can check this out. Now, you might hear and say, well, what does enhanced personal settings mean? As you know, there's personal settings already in Dynamics. It has been there forever and ever and ever. But there's one thing that a lot of people ask about, when it comes to personal settings. A lot of people have been asking for years, which is the ability to add a signature to your emails. So when you're sending emails out of Dynamics or emails automatically, people want to add their own signature. And now there's a modern email template and signature editor that comes with the enhanced personal settings that you can enable and start playing with it. The idea is once it's fully available or generally available, which is supposed to be in April because it's the April release, you can now push that into production, and now your users can have that on the production environment. That is the goal. You have 2 months to test it, to learn how to use it, etc. So that feature, enhanced personal settings, is one that I'm excited about. There are some other ones in terms of customer service that are also available in February, and again, generally available or general availability coming in April of 2021. There's one called weekly and monthly view supporting new schedule board inside of the core service scheduling solution. So if you're using schedule board, there's some new features that allow you to see information weekly and monthly, which is cool. A ton of features for field service, ton of features, mapping, field service enhancements, and so on. There's like 10 or 12 of them on the list for for February 1st. Testing early access, and then April 2021 for general availability. And then again, there's just a bunch of different features for all the other applications like human resources, finance and operations, supply chain management, etc., etc., etc. So there's a huge list of them. Business Central included on that as well. But I personally, again, like to go and get into details with each one of these different features. For example, if you open the sales section within the 2021 release Wave 1 features website, there are a couple of changes that are coming that I'm excited about. One is about pipeline management, right? Pipeline management is always huge when it comes to, every organization. They want to learn how to do pipeline better. They want to learn how to forecast better. So pipeline management is huge. It's like 12 or 15 different new things that are coming in this release for pipeline management. I cannot list every single one of them, but it's all about metrics, and it's all about report of pipeline and forecasting. And this can be a game changer when it comes to the sales application. I think that in a lot of cases, a lot of companies are staying away from the sales application because of the fact that it's loaded with some functionality that is not needed. 2 weeks ago, we talked about this on the previous episode, some of that functionality, but I think there's a lot of new functionality that is coming up that I think some companies are going to be, looking into that. So that's awesome. And then there's a couple of other things on their sales. I think one of the themes that I noticed, because of the pipeline management, was intelligence or business intelligence, right? Providing data-driven insights that helps with decision making, which is what business intelligence is about. But the other theme that I noticed when it comes to the functionality introduced in the 2021 release wave is there's a lot of, you know, how do you call this? Like shortcuts, or I don't know if shortcuts is the right word, but ways to enhance and improve the user experience. For example, if I open the mobile section in there, inside of sales, when I open the mobile section, there's a bunch of functionality in here. For example, it says find, interact, and create customers' information easily. If you click on that, it's saying one of the feature details inside of that section says one-click follow-up actions. Now, again, this is available in February of 2021. And one of the requests that I get the most, and I don't know if I have a 2-Minute Tuesday on this out there, but I've been doing this for years, is I really, really like to make it easy for users to create follow-up actions. If you had a phone call with somebody and during the call they said, "Can you call me back on Friday?" I want to make that super, super simple. And we do that by adding sections inside, let's say, the phone call record. So when you're tracking your notes, right below there's another tab, or right next to it there's another tab, depending on the UI that you're using, that says schedule the next call. So you just pick the date, whatever, you close it as completed. It not only tracks all of your notes from the previous call, but it also creates, via a workflow or flow, creates a new phone call on your schedule for whatever date and time you selected, right? It's a quick shortcut to do that. Every single company I do this on loves it. All the users love it. And also because you're adding it into the phone call form, it makes it easy to kind of promote the capture of information, right? Notes. So you're saying, look, I made it super simple for you to create follow-up calls. What do you have to do? You're in this record. This is the call you just had. You track your notes in here, pick the next call, save or mark as complete. Boom. That's how you do it. So now the company's getting a 2-for-1. One is they're capturing notes about the call. Two is they're making it super simple for people to, add follow-up calls into the system. So I got really excited about the fact that one-click follow-up actions made it to the list. I'm looking forward to taking advantage of that. And then there's a couple of things in there, like there's one called Come Prepared to Customer Engagements, which is going to be providing enriched information per participant taken from LinkedIn and Dynamics 365 Insights. So when you are opening, and all of this is on the mobile device, which we know we can do LinkedIn and Dynamics 365 Insights on the form, on the main web, right, on the web client. But now they're enhancing the information on the mobile devices, whether you're using a tablet or a phone, in order to have access to that the customer's information. For example, like, if somebody changed, which comes from LinkedIn, there's a role change or whatever within the company, you can have that information available right away before you walk into a meeting. There's another one that can be a game changer. I haven't tested this one, mainly because it's one of those ones that are coming late. I mentioned that some features are going to be coming late. This is one of them. It's actually, the public preview is not scheduled to be released until June of 2021. So general availability will happen after that if they continue with kind of their MO. I would say that general availability is probably August 1st, but since August is so close to October, I wouldn't be surprised if this feature doesn't make it to general availability until the October release. Regardless of that, it's still listed as a feature for Wave 1 and not Wave 2, and I'm excited about it. Why? Because check this out, and this is for a mobile device. Automatic transcription of each call and online meeting. I have no idea how they're going to do this, but excited. There's not even a word beyond excited, because I get this request all the time from customers and from users. I have a call, I have a meeting. Is there any way I can just tell my phone and my phone, record my notes or whatever? And I'm always showing them, for example, if you have an iPhone, like you can click on this microphone on the bottom and do like talk to text or talk to whatever. So that works inside of the Dynamics 365 app. So I'm kind of helping them or whatever, but the fact that they're making it a big deal, the fact that they're listing it as a detail. And by the way, the business value of this, I love that they split it between business value and details, but the business value says, never miss a detail on your customer engagements. Seller conduct dozens of weekly customer engagements, often from their mobile device. Each engagement has implicit and explicit information, and some can be easy to overlook, especially if the deal is new or if the seller is new. So the features that are coming are automatic transcription of each call and online meeting, automatic assignment of each call to its relevant Dynamics 365 entity, and populating the data within Dynamics 365. So what I understand from this is that it will automatically understand what's the set regarding and connect that call or that meeting to the right record inside Dynamics. And if that happens automatically based on your conversation, like if you're having a conversation and saying, yeah, you know, this, I'm talking about the project on the corner of blah, blah street and whatever avenue, and for Dynamics to read that and then be like, well, let me go find the opportunity or the project for blah, blah avenue and whatever, that address I just mentioned. And if it can, I mean, if he does that, it's going to be scary, like scary, awesome, but scary still. So I'm kind of excited about that. And then he has conversation insights and action item extractions. Now, I don't know if you guys do this or if you have this, but one of the things that happens every morning is every morning I get an email from Cortana telling me kind of like it's my daily report, right? I just wake up in the morning and there it is, my Cortana daily brief, and it's telling me exactly what to do. Not just like you have this phone call schedule or this appointment or whatever, but it actually says like such and such said, I'm going to send it to you tomorrow. You said you will send it on Friday. Like it reads my emails and it knows, it automatically extracts all these action items and it shows them to me on a report that makes sense. It gives me like who's the person that I'm talking to and like a little bit of the paragraph or whatever I said to remind me that, hey, you know, I promised to send that video or I promised to do whatever, right? So I assume it's kind of the same technology, but again, scary, right? The fact that you're on the phone with a customer and you're saying like, absolutely, we can definitely provide a proposal for you next week. And you're just saying that. And now this thing is extracting that. Worse or not, I don't know if worse or better, but better yet, that it creates a task due next week for you to send a proposal. Just like you, I mean, they can take their time with this one. But hurry up as well, because I want to see it. This is not one of those that obviously you want to rush if it really is capable of doing all of that. And I think that if it's really capable of doing all of that, I mean, this is a game changer for companies that have people that are on the go or they use their phones a lot. I understand that with coronavirus, a lot of, companies and whatnot are not sending their salespeople on site to do stuff, but it still happens. A lot of these meetings are still happening. You're still working from home, calling and doing all this stuff, so having the ability, I don't even know how, but having the ability to do that will be pretty amazing. And I mean, just talk about things that demo well. Like if I'm working with a prospect that is considering Salesforce or Dynamics, imagine if all of a sudden, after we're talking to them, I just pull up my mobile device and show that all of our conversation is already automatically transcripted, so I can send them the notes, that all of our, whatever action items are automatically assigned to the right record in Dynamics, which would be an opportunity, let's just say, and that also any action items that I said, like I will provide you with some, licensing details, or, we have a follow-up call next week, that all of those things are already done by my phone. Like their jaw will hit the floor. It will be insane. So I'm very, very excited, as you can tell, about that one. And that's only one out of dozens and dozens of features. But this one I got excited about. I'm a solution architect, but I love technology, so I want to see how they're going to figure that out. All right, so I'm going to move on into the service one. I don't want to take all day with that, so you can see I'm excited about it. When you get into service, one thing I got excited about as a solution architect and mainly as a CRM admin at heart is that they are improving, enhancing, dramatically increasing and solving headaches, increasing capabilities of solving headaches, the timeline. Now, I don't know why the timeline or social pane or however you want to see it, I don't know why that is within the service application and not within sales. I wonder if the changes that are coming up with are only applicable to the case entity. I hope that's not the case. I hope that regardless of where you have the timeline, these changes are applicable. I really hope that's the case because they're pretty awesome changes. If you're used to working with the timeline and you're used to getting complaints about the timeline and questions from users, check this out. Some of the features that are coming with the April release when it comes to the timeline. Rich text and embedded image support for user post records. So now when they're adding a comment, they can add pictures in there. They can use bold and colors. So it will be a rich text editor rather than just adding text and hitting submit and you liking their post, which is pretty cool. Another capability, which we weren't able to really leverage before unless you kind of integrated with Yammer. By the way, what's going on with Yammer? I haven't even heard that name in a long time. After Microsoft Teams came out, it was sort of like Yammer. It's like, just don't talk about it. But anyway, now we can do @signs, so we can mention people. At Gus, hey, do I talk to some such and such, just like we can use @signs on or mention everybody pretty much right now on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere. Well, that capability of mentioning other users is coming to the timeline, which is pretty cool. The other one, this is massive too because I get this question, I feel like almost every day. The ability to filter timeline records by status reason. Show me all completed tasks. Show me all open tasks or activities, not just tasks, but show me anything that's completed. Show me anything that is open. Show me anything that is, canceled or whatever it is. That's going to be awesome. The filtering capabilities that are coming to it, I'm excited about. The other features that are coming to the timeline. You're not going to believe this. Set the command buttons for each record type. So when you pick a record type, when you go into a record, you can specify what buttons are going to be on the timeline. You can select default filters that you can apply to the timeline. You can remove the filters you don't like. How awesome is that? And you can visually configure fields and labels on each record type. I mean, just this little section right here, it's going to be amazing for administrators all over the world that have had to have the awkward conversation with users saying, the timeline is kind of what you see is what you get. There's really nothing I can do. I mean, the best we can do with the timeline is increase and decrease the size and maybe pick what tab is supposed to open first. But other than that, you're kind of stuck. There's nothing to do. But with the April release, we get a bunch of functionality on the timeline. And again, my concern is that this is within the Dynamics 365 customer service app section and not kind of a global thing. Having said that, there's really not a global section. It's not like there's a global Dynamics 365 customer engagement, let's just call it, even though no one says that anymore. But there's no general section where some of these features could be. I am hoping that this is available across the board and that, I mean, they stock it in service, but they could have stocked it in sales or anywhere else. But I'm really excited about that. Also, the experience for managing auto posts is supposed to improve as well. You know, the auto post that when you win an opportunity or lose it, or when you create an account or whatever, there's like an auto post that it gets added to the timeline that says such and such closed this opportunity as won. That is configurable today, but it's not easy. Most people don't even change it. They don't want to do anything with it. So the requirements are, for example, you might not want to add to the timeline for everything that happens, but if it's a large opportunity, for example, you might want to add that. You might want to say that such and such closed a $100,000 opportunity. That's awesome, but you know, the little ones that are 3 and 4,000 or whatever, maybe you don't want to do those. Whatever it is, they are supposed to improve it. They call it modern administration experience. It's coming with the April release. All of these are in April. The only one, for out of all the things that I've talked about, the only one that is in June is that NSA level, CIA level, automatic, you know, transcribing and creating stuff on your phone. That's, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That is some Terminator level stuff. So I'm excited about it. Like I said, there's a bunch of stuff in here. There's some more Power Platform specific, release plans that you can break it up by Power BI. You can break it up by Power Apps, Power Portals, Power App Portals. Let's just say Power Automate, Virtual Agents, Dataverse, etc. So you can go in there, and there's so much to read. You can obviously download the 348-page PDF if you really want to kill a couple trees and print this up and read it. I don't know why you want to do that. I know that a lot of people like to read stuff and highlight and all of that. I'm not one of those. If I can read it on a computer, I'd rather do that. Not because, I want to save ink and whatnot. That is true. I don't want to print and use paper if I don't have to, but because I can copy and paste and I can do other things when I'm reading it on the computer. And more than anything, I think it's a lot easier to navigate to whatever you want to go to rather than on a PDF where you have to be using Control Find and stuff like that. So anyway, it's up to you. I'm going to add the links to the description of this podcast, and then you can decide which one do you want to approach. But I wanted to cover that. I don't normally cover news on the podcast. I think that there are other shows out there that are really good at talking about the latest and greatest. I'm not like that. I try to cover things that are longer lasting. You can listen to an episode from a year ago and still get a ton of value from that. That's what I try to do. But I'm so excited about this release because of what I consider to be game-changing capabilities that are coming. So I wanted to cover that as one of the things that I wanted to talk about in this episode. The other thing that I wanted to talk about in this episode is not as exciting and happy as the first half. And this came directly from a conversation I had with, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus or provide a whole lot of information, but I was talking to someone, let's just leave it at that. On the partner side, it wasn't a customer and it wasn't another MVP. And we were talking about kind of capabilities, and we were talking about the community, and we were talking about different things. And the topic of being an MVP came up, and the person that I was talking to essentially said that, maybe a lot of people are not talking about this, but the reality is that the community as a whole, the partner community, the Dynamics community, the Microsoft Business Application community as a whole has kind of lost their I don't want to say respect because that's not the right word, but has kind of lost their impression, or I'm struggling to find the right word, but what I'm trying to say is they have lost the excitement or whatever they had for the MVP community. The conversation was something like, I think that MVP, years ago, and I'm just paraphrasing what he said. It was a he. I'll just throw that out there. It wasn't a woman who said this, but so he said, years ago when I looked at the list of MVPs, I I looked at it with kind of like, wow, like this is the tip of the spear. These are the world's greatest Dynamics 365 professionals. These are, amazing people that deserve to be a most valuable professional from Microsoft. But now, and over the last couple of years, I've noticed that, MVPs are pretty much influencers that work for free. These are not people that are knowledgeable. These are not people that I look up to in terms of having real world experience and that we should look up to and say like, well, if an MVP is really saying this, I should really pay attention. That's not at all how the community feels about the MVP program anymore. And that kind of took me by surprise. To be honest, I mean, I disagree, obviously, with that take of it. I when I look at the list of people on the MVP list, I'm inspired by them. I want to learn from every single MVP. I constantly want to have them, on this show and watch their content and all of that. I look up to them. So I never feel like I look at the list, whether it's with the brand new MVPs that just got the award or people that are more old school MVPs. And I don't know where I fit if I'm old school or one of the new guys now that I have 9 MVP awards. I feel like I'm more people would say that I'm on the old school side. But I never feel like these people are just influencers that don't get paid. To the contrary, I feel that the people that I look up to the most would be doing what they do, whether they are recognized as influencers, quote unquote, or MVPs or not. Like when I look at the blog articles that Yuka posts, I think he would be doing that regardless whether this award existed or not. When I look at the great content that a lot of MVPs put out there, and again, I don't want to keep singling people out. I think that they would be doing that regardless of being an MVP or not. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is not so we can start a debate whether it is true or not that the MVPs over the last few years, like the quality, whatever you think quality is, has decreased or increased. We're not here to debate that. What I want to talk about is the reasons why some of you listening to this show want to become an MVP. And I've recorded episodes about this. I've talked about, what are some of the mistakes I see, aspiring MVPs making. What are some of the the best practices that you should be following if you do want to become an MVP. But none of those things are valid or applicable if all you want to do is get the award and the recognition. Honestly, I don't think I don't think this podcast would stop if Microsoft decided to take my MVP award away because of whatever reason. Like they think I didn't do enough to deserve it or whatever. I'm not the tip of the spear. Whatever reason they use, if they would take it away, I would still do this. And I think most MVPs, I don't want to say all because there's probably MVPs out there that are not like that, but the vast majority of MVPs would do the same whether they were MVPs or not. So I don't want people listening to this show who are aspiring MVPs to do it for the wrong reason. If you're doing it just because you want to be famous or whatever, quote unquote, whatever that means, being famous in this industry doesn't really mean a whole lot, to be honest. If you're just doing it for that, I don't think you should do it. There's no benefit on that. And I think that from us on the MVP side, not everyone, again, I don't want to say all of us, but I try my best, and I think most MVPs try their best to nominate people that are not doing it just for fame, that are not doing it just to get the title. I personally have nominated only a handful of people in the 9 years I've been an MVP. And I'm kind of glad that now, in order to become an MVP, you have to be nominated by another MVP or you have to be nominated by someone who works for Microsoft. I like that because I think that cuts down on a lot of those nominations of people that are nominating the people who post a lot of content out there that might not be as valuable, but I'm always seeing posts by this person. I'm always seeing, videos by that person or whatever it is. Well, I think for us as professionals, we get to see those videos and those blog articles and those podcasts or whatever it is, and we can tell whether there's value on it or not. And we wouldn't nominate someone who's not adding value. For the most part, I think that's true for all MVPs. We wouldn't nominate someone that we don't want to learn from. We don't want to nominate someone who wouldn't be adding value to their community. But by the same token, I don't want anyone to get discouraged from trying to become an MVP by adding value. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with you sharing all this content out there because you want to add value to the community and then eventually get the MVP award. I don't want you to see it as something bad or whatever, disqualifying in any way. I think it's a great thing to have. And the other side of it, which I think is interesting, and this person said it also during our conversation, is, and I've heard this before. I've heard this even before I became an MVP. I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. I remember on the first convergence I went to, I wasn't an MVP yet. It was in April of 2012. I got my award in July of 2012. But I was in April, and I was already, like an up-and-coming potential MVP, let's just say. Like, people knew who I was. The MVPs knew who I was, etc. Right? So I was kind of like, on my way to join the group. There were very, very few at that point. I think I was MVP number 42 in the world. So there weren't a whole lot of us out there. Well, I wasn't even one of them back then. So I remember going to this conference, Convergence 2012 in Houston, and I sat in the room when they were doing the Ask the MVPs, which is one of my favorite sessions to do, by the way. Every time we go to a conference, if there's an Ask the MVPs and I can go, I'm always there. I love it. And so I go to this event for the first and last time as a non-MVP. And of course, because I wasn't an MVP, I wasn't standing in front of the room answering questions. He was asked the MVPs, and I wasn't one. So I'm sitting, and there's this guy sitting next to me. I wish I remember who he was. I wish I remember his face or his name. But I remember him just turning to me and saying something like I should be there or something like that. He said I'm hearing all these questions and I should be there answering them. And I'm like, are you an MVP? Like, I thought he was telling me, like, I'm an MVP, but I'm not. I don't want to stand there. I'm like, are you an MVP? And he's like, no, but I mean, I'm basically, I have the knowledge, like all these guys. I'm just like them. I just don't have the title or something like that. And I remember that from that 2012. And I'm like, I don't. That's interesting to say that, I have the same knowledge, but I don't have the title. That was kind of weird. And then, when I had this conversation with this person that I was telling you about, it said the same thing. He said, when I look at the list of MVPs, they used to be like the epitome and like, the best professionals in the world like 5 years ago or whatever. That's what it was. Whereas right now it's just a list, and the people on the list, like the guys that I work with here at, insert name of partner here, the guys that I work with here at this company are way better than all of the people on the list. Like they have better than MVP knowledge. And to me, that sounds like every time I hear that, and I know other MVPs have heard this before as well, like I'm basically an MVP, I just don't have the award. That to me shows that you know nothing about what the MVP award is, because the MVP award is not, there's no exam for it. You're not demonstrating your knowledge to anyone, not even to Microsoft. No one gives you an interview. Maybe they should, but no one is interviewing you to know if you are like the tip of the spear or whatever, like the best professional in the world. No one is doing that. The MVP award is based on you sharing your knowledge, whether that is best in the world type of knowledge or not, you sharing your knowledge and best practices to or with the community. That's what it's about, is how much can you help people out there that are like you, are in kind of the same position, and they're trying to learn, or they're trying to solve a problem, or they're trying to whatever, right? How can you help people get better? That is what the MVP award is all about. So every time I hear someone say, I'm basically an MVP except I don't have the award. It's just nonsense. It would be like saying like I'm basically a pilot but I don't have a license. Like, well, what do you mean by that? Are you a pilot or are you not? It just, there's no one or the other. Now you could argue and be like, well, I mean, maybe you know how to fly planes, you just don't have a pilot, which means you can't fly people around. You can't even fly yourself around, but you know how to fly the plane. Like, what? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I want to make sure that people listening to this show who want to become an MVP, go for it and go and do it for the real reasons. If you haven't listened to the episodes that we have recorded about mistakes that most people make, aspiring MVPs make, or, essentially best practices, just go ahead and check out our feed. Go to CRM MVP Podcast, search for the word MVP, and you're going to find, a bunch of episodes or several episodes that we have recorded in this matter. I want to bring people into the community. I think that's a big misconception. We talked about misconceptions also before. We had a whole episode about that. One of the misconceptions was that people think MVPs don't want other MVPs to join the family. That couldn't be further from the truth. I want all of those experts that say I have MVP level knowledge, but I don't have the award. Well, then get the award, right? Start sharing all this stuff with the community. The community includes me, by the way. I want to learn from you, and hopefully, if what you're sharing is valuable and we're all learning from you, and you do it you do it often, you become one of those most valuable professionals in the community. Hopefully, you get the award. Microsoft wants more MVPs. They want more variety of feedback too, because remember, what we do is we provide feedback. So why would they want only 8 people in a group and they all have the same level of knowledge and the same feedback and the same background? Like, there's no value on that. Microsoft wants people from all walks of life that share all their knowledge and information and want to make the program improve, not just get the award. Those are the ones that get the award once and then they get dropped off the next year, right? You want to commit, you want to do it because you enjoy doing it and not because you just want the recognition. There's no point on getting the recognition if then you drop off the year after because you're doing nothing. Like, that is the wrong kind of recognition. So I just wonder if you guys in the community feel like that, if you feel like the MVP list is no longer representing a list of professionals that you look up to, but more, just a list of people that just post a lot and provide no value. I wonder how you feel about it. I'm just curious. Again, I'm not criticizing. I'm not, throwing anyone under the bus and saying who I heard this from or anything like that. I just want to bring it up because I was kind of taken aback by it. I know that some people feel like that, especially people who are upset about the process. And I know actually MVPs that, deserved perhaps to become MVPs way earlier than when they became MVPs, because the process to become an MVP is so cumbersome and it's kind of a black box that we have no control over. I wish we could kind of speed things up and help out, because, I mean, there's people out there that are totally just amazing and inspiring, breathtaking. Some of these content that I see and features and videos that I see are amazing, better than anything I can do. But they're not an MVP yet, and sometimes it's frustrating. But the best we can do is submit a name and then let the process take effect. But there's nothing else we can do at that point. So I think, some MVPs are frustrated, or some people that should be MVPs or could be MVPs are frustrated, and then they say, I'm basically an MVP, but I didn't get the award. And there's kind of like a bitterness. Like, you're looking at the list of people and you're like, I know more than them. It's not about that. There's a lot of MVPs on the list that I know more than them about certain things, and they know more than me about other things. There's experts in development that I'm zero. Like, I'm a 0 on a scale from 0 to 10 based on what they know about development. But then I could be a 10 in something else that they are a 0 on. So that is why the MVP family is so strong, because all of us combined represent the best of the best as a whole, not one individual inside the family. So I'm always, curious of what people think about the award and why they want to go for it. And again, I'm always curious about what you're thinking. If you have any comments or questions for this episode, whether it is about the 2021 release wave 1 features that we cover on the first half of the show or the first 30 minutes of the show, Now, feel free to send me a question or a comment to info@crmmvppodcast.com. If you have a comment or a question about the things that we covered on the second half of the show in terms of the MVPs and the list and, essentially the award and what it means, what it allows you to do, also send me an email at info@crmmvppodcast.com. You can also comment on the episodes in our website, crmmvppodcast.com. All of our episodes are there. You can leave comments there. You can send me a tweet as well at Gus Gonzalez 2 or at CRMMVP Podcast, and I'm happy to engage with you. I think there's still a ton of value in the MVP community. Of course, I'm very passionate about it as an MVP myself. I love the family. I love everyone that's a part of the family and everyone that's working hard to join that family. And I think partners out there should also look up to either having some of their current professionals become MVPs and join the family, or working with, partnering up, hiring, however you want to see it, current MVPs, because the value they can bring is amazing. No one gets access to some of these features and capabilities and roadmap that we get access to, and our perspective, it's more valuable than in some cases professionals that have been doing this for a long time, because they kind of look back at the things they've learned. I learned this this kind of sentence in the past, which is it's like trying to steer a boat by looking at the wake. That's how I feel like I was before I was an MVP, whereas now I can steer the boat by looking at the future and having access to that roadmap. So that is hugely valuable. If you want any advice or if you have any questions about it, any comments, again, reach out to me. I'm always happy to do that. I know that there are people out there like Mark Smith who are mentors and are staying on top of people and helping them out go through the process in becoming an MVP. I'm perhaps not the best person at mentoring, but hopefully I serve as a little bit of an inspiration to show you that you don't have to be the best in the world at everything you do in order to achieve your goals. And once again, I hope that you learned something from this episode. We will be back to talk about the things we like and hate on the different applications on the next episode. And again, we're really close to episode 100 and 100,000 downloads. I do want to do a giveaway. I don't know what I'm going to give away yet. I have some stuff that I feel like is too expensive to just give away. And then some stuff that I think is not the best for a giveaway. So I'm trying to find the best balance. If you have any ideas on what to give away, what you think is valuable, let me know. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.